Hey everyone, welcome to A1 Recaps. In today's video, we are recapping Chained, a chilling psychological horror film from 2012. Before we get started, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. The movie starts with 9-year-old young Tim, who opens the main door as Bob has abducted a girl from the street and brought her home. He cries under a table while looking at his mom's photo on her license card. 8 weeks earlier, Brad dropped his wife Sarah and his son Tim in a family theater and told them to catch a cab while coming back home. After watching the movie, the mother-son duo got a cab right away and let the driver know their address so he could reach them safely at their home. But the driver starts taking them in the wrong direction. When Sarah began to shout at him, he still said nothing. She couldn't even open the doors as he locked it. He stops in a deserted place and makes Sarah unconscious by hitting her. The driver was Bob, who is a serial killer, and he brought both of them to his home. He takes Sarah into his home and keeps Tim locked in his car, parked in his garage. Moments later, Rabbit hears her mom screaming at the top of her lungs. He starts crying while peeing in his pants out of fear. With bloodstains on his face and body, Bob comes and takes Tim to his home. He hits on Bob's crotch, but he doesn't do anything to Tim. But he also confirms that Rabbit will never see his mother again, as she is dead now. Bob seems mentally disturbed, which shows in his talking and behavior. He tells Tim that he has to do one job in his home, which is cleaning. Tim must serve Bob breakfast and cannot eat or drink without Bob's permission. Whenever Tim hears the buzzer, it means Bob has brought someone new. Rabbit has to open the door in 10 seconds. He has to collect the missing person stories from the newspaper, put them in a scrapbook, clean up the bloody mess after Bob kills his victims, and Tim also has to bury the dead bodies. He'll get a beating if he tries to disobey his orders or escape from the place. This will be his world until Tim dies. Moreover, Bob started to call him Rabbit. However, the innocent Rabbit cannot live like an animal and tries to flee using the attic window. Unfortunately, Bob was standing just in front of the house and saw him trying to escape. The area is uninhabited, so no one is around even though he tries to scream for help. As a punishment, Bob starts throwing small rocks at Rabbit. One of them hits his head and he loses consciousness. Bob chained Rabbit after the incident. He cleans the filth in different parts of the house while being chained. Bob also observes his activities through CCTV cameras. Bob brings different women and kills them in the most brutal ways possible. But Bob becomes affectionate towards Rabbit, letting him watch TV and bringing him chocolate bars from time to time. Initially, Rabbit becomes a teenager and still does the same things for Bob. While working, a father and son get in Bob's car. As Bob drove, he witnessed the father physically abusing and verbally assaulting his son, triggering traumatic memories of his own childhood abuse by his father. Coming back home, Bob asks Rabbit if his father loved or played with him during his childhood. Even though Rabbit says nothing, Bob still says that he should start learning things from him. Otherwise, people will walk over him. Here, Bob begins to act like a father figure towards Rabbit, but Rabbit has also become mentally sick living like this. He doesn't act like ordinary people. Besides, he still roams around the house, being chained. Bob brings Rabbit a human anatomy book and tells him to study hard about how the human body works so that he can kill people and cut them up as he does. He plans to give Rabbit some freedom as he has become older now. But Rabbit refuses to learn them as he doesn't want to kill anyone. Hearing that, Bob starts to make a commotion in the house. Bob shows Rabbit that his father has remarried and he doesn't miss him at all. So he has no one in this world but Bob. Rabbit starts to study the book. Bob admires him and takes care of him by cutting his hair and shaving his beard. Bob also asks him questions about the human body to track his progress. As Bob continues his heinous work, a girl emerges from the room and attempts to find a way to escape. She asks Rabbit, but he doesn't say anything out of fear. Eventually, Bob also kills her. Bob plays a game with Rabbit using the ID cards that he has gotten from his victims. As one person mentions a name, another provides their complete information, including their address, age, and weight. While cleaning a mess of a dead body, Rabbit finds a knife in her bag. He kept everything in its place but held the knife to himself. Bob, on the other hand, was screaming in his sleep as he was having nightmares about his messed up childhood. His father felt frustrated after being laid off from work. As his sons began to earn money, he viewed it as an insult and physically abused them whenever he wanted. He even makes Bob sleep with his wife and their mother. This disturbed childhood made Bob the man he is today. Later, Bob brings a girl who moves around care freely in his home. As she asks Rabbit where the powder room is, he brings her to the room where Bob tortures his victims. Bob cuts the girl's throat in a second, making her dead. Then, Rabbit eventually buried the girl in a secret room where Bob buried his previous victims. Rabbit was screaming in his sleep, indicating he was experiencing nightmares related to his traumas, just like Bob. Bob gave him a school yearbook and told him to find someone he liked. He'll bring the girl to him, as he needs to get laid at his age. Besides, he also unchained Rabbit. Rabbit filled the scrapbook with the news of the missing people that Bob murdered. As he hands it over to Bob, he asks why he does these things. Bob says he does that because the woman asks for it as if they are whore. While having breakfast, Bob tells him to find the right one. As he doesn't want to, Bob forces him to choose a random girl from the yearbook. Bob finally brings the girl to his house. He asks Rabbit to come and enjoy his time and kill the girl like he does. If Rabbit does these things perfectly, Bob can trust and give him some freedom, but he hides under the table with his books. Eventually, Bob convinces him and brings him out under the table. As they enter the room, the girl starts freaking out. Bob tells her to stay quiet as it is Rabbit's first time. While leaving the room, he gives the knife he got from the girl and tells him to have fun. As Bob leaves the room, Rabbit releases the knife from his hand and sits quietly in another corner. As the girl, Angie, understands that he's different, she starts making conversations with him. She tells him to use her however he wants, but begs him to get her out of this place. But he cannot. As he slowly started to touch her, Bob came to check as he couldn't hear anything from the room. As Rabbit sees Bob, he stabs Angie on the left side of his belly and yells at him to leave. He takes her body to another room while making Bob understand that he did his job well. Looking at Rabbit's body covered in bloodstains, Bob feels proud, thinking he taught him well. The next day, Bob brings a chair and sets it beside him, implying he made Rabbit a man just like him. He even brought him new clothes to wear. As Rabbit comes to the living room getting all dressed up, Bob shows him his chair, which is his graduation present. He learned for years and eventually graduated by proving his worth. Bob then takes Rabbit to the town for his first hunt. He shows him different places where different kinds of women live and tries to figure out what type of girl he prefers. As Rabbit isn't into this messed up thing, Bob plans to return home. But he sees through a mirror that Rabbit wrote "help" on his cab using lipstick while watching the back of the car where he last saw his mom. Rabbit could never become a man like Bob. That's why he never killed Angie. He stabbed her in a place where it wouldn't damage her vital organs that could kill her. He just stabbed her to show Bob. Rabbit also tells her not to make any sound and act like a dead person when he hides her in a different room. He'll make Bob think that Angie is dead. He even gave the girl the knife he kept from another victim for safety. Understanding Rabbit's whole plan, Bob hits him after coming back home. He then goes to look for Angie with a sharp knife. Rabbit breaks the door and comes inside. Rabbit couldn't let Bob kill Angie. Eventually, he stabs the knife in Bob's throat and kills him. He even buries him just the way he buried the other victims. The next day, Rabbit goes to his home. He sees his father living a lavish life now, but he was very poor while Rabbit and his mother were around. He notices a distinctly different atmosphere in the house and doesn't spot any photos of himself or his mother anywhere. He asks his father why he gave it to his brother, Bob, while giving him a letter. Brad's new wife knows nothing about his brother, so Brad makes her go upstairs with their son Colin. Rabbit knows where his father has come from and everything about his life. Brad paid Bob, his elder brother, to make Rabbit and his mother disappear. Shortly after that, he married a rich woman to change his lifestyle. Hearing everything, he starts hitting Rabbit and tells him to go from his house. But Brad's new wife Marie comes to save him. Brad starts physically abusing her just the way Bob did to his victims. As the trauma triggered him, Rabbit viciously attacked his father with a glass shard, ultimately killing him. Marie intentionally made a mess of the house to make it look like an intruder had broken in and killed her husband. While taking the glass piece from Rabbit's hand, she tells him to go from here. The movie concludes with Rabbit returning to Bob's house to live an isolated life for the rest of his life, as there is no longer a single person for him in this world.